It was termed a man session because if you look, and I'm taking the period to February 2010, over that period of time, men lost 69% of the jobs, women lost 31% of the jobs, even though men and women are much more evenly distributed among payroll jobs. What's very interesting about this recession is that the declines were almost evenly split between goods producing and services producing sectors. That's the first time this has happened. This is the largest job loss in the service sector that we've had. The recovery, as you know, has been slow. I want to emphasize that it is not that it has been good for men. Just have to be clear about that. It's been terrible for everybody. But having said that, it has been better for men. As you can see, overall, we've regained 1 in 6 lost jobs. For men, it's 1 in 5 lost jobs. And for women, it's less than 1 in 10 lost jobs. So looking at the jobs that men lost, 21% of them have come back. Looking at the jobs that women lost, only 9% have come back.
When you say jobs that have come back, do you mean people that new jobs in the same sector, or?
No, just looking at jobs that men have held in general. So looking at all the jobs that men have lost and looking at the jobs that men have gained in the recovery, the number of jobs is up by 21%. And not that it's up by 21%, they've regained 21% of the jobs that they have lost. Okay, so what explains this? And one of the big answers, of course, is that despite the progress that women have made, we still have a huge amount of occupational segregation by gender. It's really astounding. If you look at teachers and nurses, other kinds of healthcare workers, it remains really remarkable. So at the onset of the recession, women held 49% of all non-farm payroll jobs, but only 29% in manufacturing, only 13% in construction. Those were 2 of the hardest hit sectors, so it's understandable that women held fewer of the jobs, they lost fewer of the jobs in those sectors. If you look at it, this is now private education and health services, not K through 12 or anything like that, but private education and health services. Women held 77% of the jobs in that sector, and this was a very strong sector before the recession, along with construction. It's mainly where the jobs were coming from, and it remained strong through the recession. As employment collapsed in general, you saw that education and health services added about 844,000 jobs, and within that, home health care and nursing homes each added 95,000. So that's 200,000 low-wage jobs that we were adding during the recession. We saw an expansion of Medicaid as workers lost their jobs and their health insurance. Medicaid rolls increased, and this helped to support the employment in health care. So you know that if we're going to have cutbacks in Medicare and Medicaid, what effect this is likely to have. In private sector, this is the private sector. People forget that about 52% of healthcare is financed by the government, and so cutbacks there affect the private sector. If you look at the public sector, this sector added almost 100,000 jobs. So in the sectors where women are strong, jobs continue to be added. In the sectors where women are not so represented is where the huge job losses occurred. So that has a lot to do with it. Not that it was great for women. We lost 2.7 million jobs, but of course with these offsets, the losses were less severe than they were for men. Okay, the big story is in the public sector. It held up reasonably well during the contraction, but it has defied the recovery. Employment has declined in the public sector by 284,000 jobs since February 2010. All of those jobs were lost at state and local government level. The federal government actually went down through March and gained a little to April, so it's held steady, but there's not a whole lot of action at the federal level either way. The big losses are at state and local level. 3/4 of the jobs lost are due to jobs lost by women, which is, of course, way out of proportion to their presence in the sector. Most of the jobs were lost in local government, and the local education, we know that's mainly women, and in other local government jobs, the jobs are lost by men and women. We know that the public sector job declines are set to accelerate. My view is that things are going to get worse for women, and we're going to see it in the third quarter. We're going to see it in July, August, and September. In some cases, the pink slips will go, but most states start their fiscal year on July 1st. The pink slips in some states will go out at the end of June. In other states, they're still hoping that the federal government is going to come through for them, and they're not going to send the pink slips out until the last possible minute. We'll see them go out right before September. So if we compare employment in June with employment in September, I predict that we're going to see huge losses. And the reasons for it, we can see that in 2009, the federal government gave the states nearly $60 billion as part of the stimulus package. In August of 2010, another $25 billion that was specifically for teachers, first responders, and to support Medicaid. That money is gone. Okay? It's just gone. So we can imagine what's going to happen. It's really unconscionable that with 9% unemployment, we do not have a president and a Congress that are proposing revenue sharing with the states or block grants to the states in support of this. Just unbelievable. So my view is that with local governments facing shortfalls, both in terms of tax revenues and support from the state, we're going to see a lot more cuts at the local level, and this will not go well for women. Of course, as mothers, we know it doesn't bode well for education either. I mean, most of us either have children or grandchildren who are going to be really negatively affected. I mean, they're talking about class size of 45 in California, where two of my grandkids are.
They're talking about what?
45
class size of 45 kids.
Oh my God.
I don't even see how that's manageable. Yeah.
What specifically are the cuts being
Public school teachers, they're going to raise class size and reduce the number of teachers. They already have, the pink slips, at least in my grandchild's school, have already gone out to the Magnet, he's in a gifted Magnet program, have gone out to the Magnet coordinators. They will not have a Magnet coordinator. They will not have anybody to run the program. So far, the teachers look like they're going to be okay, but they anticipate even in these programs an increase in class size to 45. I don't see how the teachers can handle it, but I can tell you that the kids certainly can't. So the other reason I think things are likely to get worse is that the recovery is sputtering. GDP growth was down significantly. It was 3.1%. What you need to understand is we need GDP growth over 5% coming out of a recession. It's always over 5% for a couple of quarters coming out of a recession. We've had one quarter of GDP growth above 5% since this recession ended in 2009. I think I'm right about the one quarter. Heather, please tell me if I'm not, but we haven't had what we've needed in terms of GDP growth. 3.1% is not enough. It takes 2.5% just to keep the economy going. Anything below 2.5%, you can imagine is going to have a negative effect on employment. And to be 0.5% above 2.5% tells you that we're going to really absorb unemployed workers very, very slowly. We need a couple of quarters of 5% growth. We're nowhere near there. So it went from 3.1 to 1.8. And as you know, the labor market remains weak. Unemployment increased to 9%. My view is that the jobs and growth are going to drive the 2012 election. And maintaining this deafening silence on job creation, it cannot be good news either for the president or for the Democrats. I don't understand, really I don't understand what his advisors are telling him. I know that they expected, because I've had conversations with economists who were advising the president, they expected this to be over long ago. We never had a recession that lasted this long. It was going to come in the early years of the president's administration, be gone in time, like the Reagan thing. Economy will be growing again, people will forget the pain and suffering, everything's going to be okay. And so basically we have muddled through. We have had very little in the way of a fiscal stimulus. The bailout of the banks was not the one anybody in this room would have designed. Not to say that they didn't need to be bailed out, but they did not have to be done this way. And the result is really, really slow recovery and not clear. It does not look like things are going to be good by 2020.